Right. So, for the people who have seen me last time I was here, I announced that I'm going to be away, and we went to Thailand once more. This time it was a group of 15, 16 at the beginning. Someone just only could make it for 1 week instead of 3.5 weeks. Nothing happened, but it was a lovely trip to go and explore our tradition. So the Thai forest tradition was born in Thailand, as the name says, and it's a tradition that is famous for learning the teachings, yes, but only to the point that is necessary, and then going and practicing it, and hopefully gaining wisdom in that process. And they're also well known for simplicity and for probably also a bit of austerity, because if you are really simple and you compare it with the life that we have out here, it is quite austere. Yes. Okay, we have a few more people. Hello. Good evening. Please come in. Aha! Wow. Hi. Do I have to do the announcements again, or it's all people who have been here before? Is that right? Any new people? Three of them. Okay. Anyway, but I think we should be fine. If you need to use the toilet, it's just out there. Very good. Okay, so it was quite a big trip. So we visited about 30 senior monastics, or kind of respected elders in that tradition, and also roughly 30 different monasteries. And it was very interesting to see that they all have quite unique ways how they conduct themselves, how they, teach the teachings, and how they live. Now, one of the things that happens sometimes when you see a lot of different teachers and you see a lot of different places, you feel like they might all be saying something slightly different. Even though they're supposed to be striving, striving is probably not the right word, inclining into the direction of peace, liberation, and what this Buddhist path is all about. So if we're not careful, it can become confusing. And so one of the things that I kind of asked myself, and that I thought I could maybe talk a little bit about today, is how can we resolve this? Because even for the people who come to this group, you have different teachers. They teach different things. But hopefully, we're all teaching the same core teaching, but from different angles. And so one of those teachings that I remembered is the story of Ajahn Sumedho. So Ajahn Sumedho came from the US, and he was the first Western disciple of Ajahn Chah, the Thai forest master that was a teacher of my teacher and who kind of helped with establishing this branch of this tradition. And there is about 300 branch monasteries in Thailand and then all over the world. So he's actually very, very famous. So Ajahn Sumedho came to Thailand in the 1960s, so quite a long time ago. He's in his 90s now and lives over in the UK. So when he came to the monastery that we also visited as a group, which is called Wat Nong Pa Pong, it's probably as much Thai as I can speak. Unfortunately, when I went there, they all wanted to speak to me, but I couldn't. And especially they wanted to speak to Bhante Chunda, because it turns out that his grandmother was actually Thai. So they all thought he was Thai, and they talked to him, and he was a little bit embarrassed to keep saying, I don't speak any Thai. Anyway, so the conditions were actually extremely austere. So if you go and look up what that story tells you, there are things like the tropical heat. We were smart. We traveled in the cold season when it's actually quite bearable for 2 or 3 months. There is a lot of mosquitoes. So some of you who've heard Ajahn Brahm give the teachings, and talk about the good old days when they're sitting out in the jungle that was donated to them before they had a monastery, and the mozzies would come out at dawn and at dusk when it was their time to meditate. They would have very simple food. So the ones who don't know, we have an alms bowl and we go into the village, or the villagers come and bring food. That's kind of our tradition. And then we have, in Thailand, 1 meal a day. So it's not so much. And everything goes into the bowl. So you don't have like dessert bowls and a little bit of, popcorn and crackers or whatever it is, starters at the beginning. It's just all one bowl. And in some monasteries you have to eat really fast and things like that. Anyway, so there is strict rules as well in those monasteries, strict monastic rules. And in that time, in the 1960s, northeast Thailand was the backwaters of that country. So it was remote, it was isolated, and it was quite underdeveloped. So Ajahn Sumedho went there, he ordained, he became a Buddhist monk, and as it is, in the beginning, usually you are kind of quite inspired. And you see this beautiful forest, and you see the beautiful teacher and all the other students, and you really want to, participate, and you have lots of energy, and there might also be quite a bit of joy coming up because you've let go of all the things, in your home. And that's what we call, I just talked to someone recently, the honeymoon period. So you're just like so blown away and you're like, oh, I love it, this is great. But then after a while, for some people, sooner than later, the kind of doubts start to creep in. You ask yourself, well, was that really the right decision? Is that really the right teacher? Am I really up for this? Is this okay? It's a bit strange and I'm exposing myself to all these difficult things. And then, of course, the fault-finding mind can come in as well. And that's what happened with Ajahn Sumedho too, or with, Venerable Sumedho as he was at that time. And his teacher, Ajahn Chah, picked up on that. So he saw that he was struggling. And there was this interaction that they had that he keeps retelling because it was so important for him and for his practice. So Ajahn Chah came up to him and said, is Wat Nong Pa Pong, the name of the monastery, suffering? Or are you the one who is suffering? And it really hit him. So he started to think about this, and then he said that is what really struck him very deeply. And when he actually looked carefully, then he understood that the monastery itself was not suffering. He understood that the trees were not suffering, that his simple hut, that 1 meal a day, the mosquitoes, whatever it is not suffering, and that the heat was just heat. It was uncomfortable, for sure. That is true. But the suffering was happening in his own mind. It was triggered by something on the outside, yes. But the biggest problem was the resistance, was the aversion, was the comparison, was the doubt that arose. So he started to work with that. Ajahn Chah was pointing him back to the core insight that suffering is not in the conditions out there. It's not in the body. It actually arises in the mind which is craving, which wants things in this way, or doesn't want things, which attaches, which is deluded, and which is confused. And when I reflected on that all those teachers with their different techniques in those different places were actually pointing to that. They called it citta. Citta is the word in Pali for mind and for heart. So they emphasize that we have to understand and have to train that mind. And that the body, the world at large, the things in it, they are not the emphasis of our practice. So ultimately, suffering, but also happiness. Otherwise, it would be bad news if only suffering is being found in the mind. But happiness is there too. So, That's one of the helpful questions that you maybe remember and can ask yourself every now and then. When you're struggling, you ask yourself, what or who is suffering? Or what or who is experiencing this happiness right now? Can you change your mind about this? And just to give you a couple of examples, I usually like to do that, so you can maybe connect not just to the story, but also to something that happened to me, and hopefully, well, probably, not just probably, happens to you as well, but not just the situation, but also the inside. So I came back from Thailand. I was fine in Thailand, 3.5 weeks. I was happy because I had to engage with the group and, do a few things. There were a few people having coughs in the bus that I was in, but I was fine. I came back tired, rested, and then after 2 days I got a cold. So I caught the cold probably, unless it has a really long incubation period, on my journey back home, when I was just like, whoa, now no responsibility, I can let go, it's okay, I'm not responsible for the group, just rest, and then it kind of crept up on me. So then I could reflect on the same thing there as well. Now, my body was feeling quite uneasy, quite not so pleasant, but is it the body who is suffering? Was it my head, the headache? Was it my nose? Was it the difficulty of breathing at night sometimes and all that phlegm? Is that suffering? No, it's just what happened to this body and what the body is doing with it. But the suffering is what I add on top of that. So that's how you can be sick, but you can still be okay with that sickness. You can still have a calm, composed, or even happy mind at times, and be grateful that your body, otherwise works so well, and you give it the time it needs, and then it hopefully recovers. Or at some stage, it won't recover. The body is of that nature. And we do whatever we can, but our most important asset is the mind, is the heart. There's another thing which is happening at our little place at the moment. I don't know if it's happening in other places as well, but we have these tiny little ants that come into the building, and we are blocking off this and we're blocking off that, and we're cleaning very thoroughly and trying to make sure, that these ants don't kind of take over the kitchen. Sometimes it feels like that for, half an hour or something before you clean up and try to get it under control. Same thing there. Those ants, they have a, driving force, they want to eat, they do what an ant does. And if the ant does it out in the forest, we don't really mind, is it? But once they come in the house, when they come in my house and in my kitchen, and they get into my, mixed nuts in the cupboard or whatever it is, then I start to suffer. Then I start to go like, this is not okay. We have to do something about it. And it's true, we have to do something about it. But am I adding more suffering to the situation than is actually necessary? And now I hope you can kind of apply that to something that is happening in your life now, is happening in your body now, is happening in your mind now. Are problems such as my mother, my partner, my kids, my boss, my work, the news, the weather, the traffic, ... Please fill in the blank. Are they suffering? Or are they just following the way they are conditioned, the way the things come together and then move in a certain direction? Because we don't like it, yes. But that is the thing which arises, in the mind. Now, when we talk about the mind in these kind of lessons, very often people get very confused and go like, yeah, what is the mind? And if the mind would be so easy to see and to understand, we could solve this problem very, very easily. But one of the nice similes to understand, it's like the mastermind behind a criminal activity. The mastermind is so great in covering up everything. in making sure there is a huge circle of other people, of puppets, and he's the puppet master who are organizing all these things around him, so that you don't actually see and understand what the mind is. So that's how he or she or it, whatever it is, escapes. So now we have to understand that we have to somehow see through that smoke and those mirrors and that deception, and we can only do that if we don't start to blame all these things that are happening around on the outside. Because once we try to do that and try to kind of neutralize those things, it will help a little bit. But it's like a tree which has branches and leaves, and we can't really see the root, which is buried deep down. But if we start to cut off the leaves and the branches, what happens? They go away for a little while, but they start to regrow back. They start to come up again and trouble us later. So the aim of this path, and what all the people were pointing to, is understand where the suffering is, and then try to alleviate it and solve it at that level. Because otherwise it's like that tree, or what I sometimes refer to, the shark's teeth. I don't know if you know how the shark's teeth look like, but I had one of those jaws in my bookshelf as a child growing up, or a teen, and there is this rows and rows of teeth. And when the first ones break out or break away, the next row is always there. So that's how these things operate if we are not careful, if we don't understand how this all works. So in the scriptures, very often it says we have to cut things off at the root. Make it like a palm stump which can't regrow later. And that's the work of uncovering, letting go, and cutting off. So we have to teach our minds to see. We have to teach our minds to change and behave in a way that is in line with truth, is in line with reality. Like with the ants, we understand. Ants are just doing what ants do. Mothers are doing what mothers do. Bosses are doing what bosses do. And we have some influence, but not that much control over it. So this is our work. And it's sometimes compared like honing, or like, sharpening a knife. And that's one more quote that I wanted to mention at this point here, which is also from Ajahn Chah, the teacher I mentioned before. So they say that virtue, which comes at the beginning of the path, is a whetstone. Something that sharpens and emboldens the mind. It makes the mind strong. Like grinding a knife on a stone. This is called sila. That's the Pali word for it. And then once we have worked on that level, and there is a certain sharpness, there is a certain steadiness, and things are set in place, then we talk about meditation. That's the collectedness of the mind, which we'll be practicing afterwards. And then once that knife is sharp and it's settled and in place, then we can use it in various ways. Then we can actually gain benefits from it. And that's what wisdom is in this teaching, panya. That's the 3 kind of steps on the path. It starts with virtue, and then it goes into collectedness of mind, and then it goes into wisdoms. And now I would like to switch to the meditation, because that's what we're going to be doing together. And I also want to weave in a question a person had recently. So in all those different monasteries, they gave me many, many different tools and many, many different manuals how to use those tools. Now, if we are not careful, then we'll get stuck on that manual and on that tool rather than using that. What I was talking about before is the mind, the mind, the mind, the mind. It all goes back to the mind. So the tool is there to sharpen that mind, to erode the things away which are not helpful, to bring the best things out that are helpful. But the mind is what we're working with. So that is very, very important. So don't get hung up on the tool. Don't get hung up on the teachings or get confused by the manuals. So let's see how we can apply this to meditation. So I haven't asked, have everybody of the new people in the back there meditated before as well? Not yet? Oh, okay. So you will have a bit of practice with us very soon. So in meditation, we usually use an object to be aware of. And that is usually the body in the beginning, and then we gently shift and move to the breath, and then to the stillness, to the settledness, and to the mind. That's kind of like the trajectory that we have. But now, the simile that I want to bring up is the simile of being an artist and working with wood. So there's different stages. It's a gradual process. So you go into the forest, you cut down a tree, you need a very sharp, what is it called, chainsaw or something, a power tool, which has a lot of force. You cut the tree down, or they cut the tree down for you. We can't do that as monastics. And they bring you the wood. And then you have a saw, and you saw it into a raw block, which is roughly the size of what you want to do. And then you get the next tool. You start to get out your chisels. I had to look up some of those terms because English is not my native language there. So you use those chisels, and there is different chisels as well. There's the chisels that chop away a lot, and then there is the one that chop off less, and then there's the really thin ones that are there to carve out the details. And you go step by step. And you make sure that you don't use the rough tools on the refined things that you're trying to achieve, because otherwise you destroy it. And you also make sure you don't hold on to those tools for too long. You know when to switch. And once you've done that work, then you get the sandpapers out. And with sandpapers, same process. You use the rough ones first, and then the ones which are more fine-grained, and so forth. And then at the end, you take the oil out and the cloth, and you shine it up. Now, if you were to take the cloth to the block in the beginning, what happens? You destroy the cloth. You destroy the tool. That is the simile that is brought up all the time. But I thought about it for a little bit longer, and it's not just the tool. It's also the mind which is shaped by that tool. And if you use the wrong tool at the wrong time with the wrong intensity, you are destroying the mind. You're destroying the artwork. You're destroying the mind state. And that's another thing we also have to learn. And that's what the true art is, to know where you're at and how to apply these things, and to check in with the mind and see where it's at, and then to work with that. And at some stage, we come to a point where a tool has been used as much as it needed to be used. And sometimes we don't know how to let go of it. We carry on holding it, we carry on using it, and then it actually does more harm. And that happens when you are doing some work as well at home. Sometimes your mind is so engrossed into the task and so kind of focused on a goal in the future that it just carries on driving in the same kind of rut. And that is very important to recognize. And what do you do at that stage? You step back. You look at what has been cultivated, what has happened to the mind. And then you actually see the beauty, you see the shining of that mind. And you are just in awe. You are enjoying it. And that's the part we sometimes forget to cultivate in meditation. So I've written it down here, so I want to just maybe read it out, because when I wrote it down, it just felt so right to me. So you step back. Just gently hold the piece of art, your mind, in the palm of your hand, and bask in its glow. Every now and then, softly shining it up, or simply letting it sparkle in the light of effortless awareness. And that's what we cultivate in meditation. So the question is not, can I force my attention onto the body or onto the breath for a long period of time? Because that tires me out, and that tires the mind out and harms the mind. But what is happening in and with my mind, with the attention, with the attitude, and with the inclination of the mind? And the last simile before we meditate together, it's like when you are meeting a person and you are engaging in a conversation with them. You meet them, you say hello, like when some people come in here and we're not sitting quietly. You ask them about the weather, you ask them about their day. It's kind of chit-chat, it's a bit small talk, but you get in touch with the person. And then as you're staying in conversation with them, you get a feeling for what's going on. You ask them what their life is all about, or what they're worried about, or what they're happy about, and you start to kind of connect. You start to merge almost with that other person. You find out what makes them tick, what makes them happy. And then you might even be able, because you know what's going on, to engage in a satisfying exchange with them. You inspire, you enrich each other, you learn from each other. That's what a conversation is about. And that's what meditation is about as well. But then again, there comes a point where you've talked enough, where you've kind of exhausted that, and that's coming for me soon, and you just want to sit in silence with that person, just enjoying each other's company. You simply delight in each other's presence. The heart opens, and you just bask again in that presence, in that being together. You soak up the light, you soak up the warmth of what is created, while you also let it overflow, and you share and you radiate it out at the same time. And that's what happens in the meditation process as well at some stage. The more refined things become, you're not quite sure what the tool is and what the mind is. They start to merge, they start to dance, they start to get in tune with each other. And that's meditation in a nutshell. But let's see if we can practice this together. So make sure that you are sitting comfortably on your chair. If you need to have a sip of water, or stretch your legs, or scratch, or cough, now's a good time to make your body feel at ease. To start the conversation with your body and your mind. And what we usually do in meditation is we close our eyes. If you're not so familiar with that, you can just have them half closed, or just have them gaze gently in front of you at a point which is just kind of like boring or uninteresting. The idea is to let all the senses, to let all the awareness tune into what is going on internally. What is flowing in and what is arising within. In this body of ours, in the world of emotions, of thoughts, of worries, of joys and sorrows. And then, as I mentioned before, the breath is also a thing we can invite into our field of awareness. It can be helpful to take a few deep breaths in the beginning of a meditation, where we kind of hold the breathing a little bit firmer, we guide it, we instruct it. But we always understand the purpose. The purpose is to be aware of the mind and to make sure we're connected and we feel what's going on in the mind. We get feedback from the mind. We get feedback from the body. Consciously taking some deep breaths, letting the air flowing in. If the nose is not blocked, through the nose in, and then a little bit of a longer exhale through the mouth. That tells our whole system, our nervous system and our body, that it's time to rest and to digest. That we are safe, that we are okay. But this is not what we do for the next 25 minutes, because that will tire us out. We just do it to the extent necessary to settle, to calm, to slow down, to give attention to make peaceful, to even out those kind of ripples, those knots that we find in our bodies, in our minds, maybe with the process of breathing as well. It's this kind of hello, how are you conversation. What have you been up to? What was happened in the past? But not trying to interrogate or, to gather information so we can control our breath and our body. We know what it's up to. But to tune in, to get in touch, to understand. Because when we understand, then we can care. Then we can alleviate some of that suffering that I was talking about, that is created in the mind, and then it seeps out and it leaks out into speech. But when we're quiet, when we're silent, that's thinking, movement of the mind. I don't like this. Why is it like that? Why me? Oh, this is great, I want more. Or, oh, nothing going on, this is boring. See if you can really be there, now, with your body, with your mental world, with the natural processes of being alive, of being a human being. Allowing your feet to settle, your legs to be at ease, Your knees open up. Your hips fall into place, being supported, cradled by the chair, the cushion. And then allowing your spine, vertebra by vertebra, to unfurl like a plant does when you give it what it needs and you just let it grow. Feeling the spine, feeling the rib cage, feeling the shoulders. Open up. Allowing all your internal organs to have the space they need to do what they need to do right now. Settling, but also opening up at the same time. And making sure your stomach is not kind of crunched. Making sure that your lungs are like a sponge. If you let go, if you let it do its thing, it actually pulls in the air all by itself. And the diaphragm and the belly, they relax. And they make space for the air to flow in. And then the body contracts naturally, and the air flows out. And then in again, and out again. No point going down to the ocean and telling the waves to go this way or that way. Your job is to sit quietly and to watch. To see the waves coming in, to see the waves going out, to see the thoughts coming in, to see the thoughts going out, like the wind, like the weather. They're natural patterns. If you're at a safe distance, if you're wearing the right gear, then the water and the weather are just passing conditions. You don't suffer along with them. You don't get elated, excited with them. You're not born, and you don't die with them. We just know. Allowing your arms to hang freely. Allowing your hands to be in a comfortable position. If they're not, please feel free to change it. But please also watch what happens to your mind. Does it go towards more peace, stillness and ease? Or does it go towards more activity, resistance, irritation, dullness, confusion? Then you can maybe gently stretch your neck a little bit, tuck in your chin, and then relax. Just in the right way, that your neck is balanced on the rest of your body. You might need to adjust a little bit this way, a little bit that way. But then once it feels right, just let go into it. Rest. Allow your skull to be at ease. Your skin on it to be loose, especially in your face, around your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your throat, your jaw. Allowing your body to go with the breath, with the natural movement of energizing wakefulness, presence on the in-breath, and letting go, relaxation on the out-breath. Breathing in peace and presence. Breathing out, let go and ease. Finding this exquisite balance of being in touch, but without pushing and pulling. Continuing to be with the mind, with the breath, with the body, but in an effortless manner. Just right. Even. Even if the body comes and asks for your attention every now and then, or some thoughts or worries, make sure there's no conversation, no drama. Just a gentle hand laid on the back, reassuring, I'm here, I know, it's okay. And when the mind is at ease and peaceful, that automatically flows out into the mental world too, and into the body as well. Soothing and calming. Settling and stilling. Shaping and being shaped at the same time. Caring and being cared for. At this point, you're not really watching the waves coming in and coming out anymore. You've become the ocean. You are the movement. And because there is no separation, there is no suffering, and there's actually no movement at all. There's just stillness. No in-breath, no out-breath. Just breath. No being with the breath. Just being breath. Just being. And as we are slowly moving to the other end of the meditation, we can separate again. We can allow the ocean to carry us back to the beach. Can sit on the sand and we can see, feel, understand. How's the mind? How's the breath? How is the body? How much peace, how much relaxation, how much ease has been kindled encouraged. And then come to a point where it just takes over and does its own thing. How much of that is there compared to when we came here after having listened to a bit of a talk and instructions and then having gone into meditation? Can we make friends with our mind? Can we work with our mind? Can we respect and care for our mind? If we can, then suffering will lessen and collectedness will arise, and then we'll understand, then we'll have wisdom. I'll be ringing the bell 3 times. Just keep your eyes closed and listen to the 3 sounds. And allow this to bring you back into this room, back to the senses, and back to a lovely summer evening. Is there any questions or comments or complaints? Yes, please.
Ajahn, I'm thinking of a two concepts.
Sorry, you were thinking of?
I'm thinking of the 2 things.
Oh, yes.
2 concepts.
All right.
Let it go and acceptance.
Yes. So,
in meditation and in everyday life. And sometimes I ask myself, are they conflicting together?
no, it's the same thing.
The same thing?
Yes.
Can you please elaborate, please?
So, in order to let go, you have to accept. If you don't accept, it will stay with you. Acceptance means understanding. Acceptance means knowing what is going on. Like I accept that there is ants in Kusala Hermitage in the kitchen. That's a fact. And when I accept, then I can let go of all the unnecessary suffering that arises from that situation. And then I can make wise decisions. Then I can ask for help. Then I can make things happen. But if I'm so caught in what I think life and the ants and everyone else should be like, I've already lost course. Does that make any sense at all?
I'm sorry. I think maybe it is very abstract
Okay.
to talk about it because it makes different sense in different aspects
Situations.
of life.
Yes,
Situation.
correct.
And actually, at the moment, I'm just thinking of the workplace.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you have a workplace before or not, but maybe
Yes.
it's not relevant
Yes,
to you.
yes.
But you know, as a
Hmm.
lay people, we have to work.
Of course.
So we have our workplace.
Yep.
And sometimes, unfortunately, you have to work in a kind of toxic work
Yes.
environment.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry if I understand
No.
that,
Slightly
very
different
literally,
situation. Yep.
I define let it go like similar to let it be, leave it, let it behind, something like that.
Yes. Yes.
And when facing a toxic working environment,
Yeah.
sometimes, I will ask myself, do I accept it or do I let it go? I mean, for me, let it go, I understand, leave it.
Right.
And today, you said that, let it go, to some extent, it's similar, not exactly, basically similar, but I understand it is a very abstract idea, definition. So I just would like to ask your opinion in a very specific.
Yep. Thanks for giving more detail.
It is
Yeah.
a toxic working place.
Yep.
So do we, as employees, when we find it, toxic working place, maybe other people do not find it. It's fine.
I don't know.
Like
Yeah.
you, if
Yep.
you find it, it's
Yep.
a toxic working
Yep.
environment for
Yep.
you. Do you accept it or do you do something to
Yes.
change it?
Okay. Very good.
That
Yes.
is actually my
Yep.
particular
Yep.
situation.
Okay. So when we talk about what I was talking about tonight, we talk about the mind and what's going in the mind,
Yeah.
and there we accept, and there we let go. But then
Yeah.
we have to ask ourselves, what do we want in life?
Yeah.
And we ask ourselves, are we treated fairly or are we not treated fairly? What is okay and what is not okay for us?
Yeah.
And then we take action.
Yeah.
But we take action from that place.
Yeah.
We don't go like, "Wah, you're doing this to me and you're just trying to make my life hell, and these people are just trying to be happy." They go about it in a very unskillful way and they hurt a lot of people in the process. But most of the people are not, 100% evil. I don't think I ever met a 100% evil person yet. So, yes. But then once we've accepted and understood what is happening within and what could make the situation worse, then we gradually, slowly, in a way approach the situation that we don't inflame it, but that we make known what is difficult for us and what we would wish to have changed. And then it's always the question, how do you talk to those people that are in that position? So if you tell them, you're doing this to me and you're to be blamed and you can't do this, of course they will blah, 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 yeah. But if you try to explain to them, okay, this is what's happening for me, I kind of work in this way. If I were in an environment that would be da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and these certain needs that I have would be met, I would be much more productive. I would be much more relaxed. I would be much more outgoing. I would be much more engaged. And if the other party is willing to say, okay, we have some needs as a workplace, but we understand that all the people working in that workplace are the workplace and they have needs as well. And the best way to go about this is to make sure that most people's needs are met to the utmost degree possible. And that will make everyone happy in that environment. But some people are too fixed in their way, and then we have to understand, okay, your worldview and your way to go about things doesn't match with mine at this point in time. So rather than being hurt rather than creating all these problems and being tired or having all these things arise. If there were another environment or another place, then... But we do these things slowly and over a period of time. Sometimes what happens with those situations is they arise and we get into a mind state, and then that mind state colors what's going on to such a degree that we're just like, I hate this person, or I have to leave, or we are very stuck in a certain view, and then we're not accepting. So acceptance is always the first step. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we don't protect ourselves if that's needed. Or that we don't stand up, or that we don't voice. Sometimes people say, "Oh, Buddhism is just so peaceful that you are treated like a doormat or whatever." And that's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to minimize harm. But if something doesn't make sense, then sometimes it's time to walk away. And if it's a situation where we have responsibility, where we know why we are in that place, and we there is a lot of things that are going for it as well, then we invest in it, then we start to negotiate, then we start to... I described that to another person before. It's like two kids. They're playing a game. And as kids, what do? You very often kind of invent the rules for the game. But you want to make sure that it's not just one kid playing the game the way they want. So you tell the kid, I'm happy to play with you, but only if we can agree upon some rules that are okay for you and are okay for me. Then I will play. But if it's just your way or highway, you can play with yourself or find someone else. So, there is a give and take. There is a harmony. There is an understanding. There is a respect that has to be there. Does it make more sense now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. But it is very tricky, and these things are long-term things, and
I believe it is a very individual decision.
Of course. Oh, yeah. And we also, sometimes we have to remind ourselves we are at work and being paid because it's kind of unpleasant. Otherwise we wouldn't be paid, would we? It's kind of like some kind of deal here. I mean, if you have a workplace and it's just... I mean, I felt that way sometimes as a layperson when I was a teacher or when I was looking after the people I was caring for. I felt, wow, this is great. I love this. I would do this even if I wouldn't be paid. But that is not the norm. If you're in that lucky situation, great. The thing is, as a monastic, I'm not paid anyway. And I enjoy what I'm doing. But I know. I'm not trying to compare apples with pears or, apples with oranges or whatever you call that. Anyway, thank you for the question, but if you have follow-up or whatever, I'm happy to state. But I see the time has progressed, so thank you everyone for coming in, and have a good week. Ajahn Santuti, the abbot of Kusala Hermitage, will be here next week. So please come along if you wish to do so.